good morning, Night City. Like, I don't know what to do. So I just kind of vamp every time. Yeah.
Town 30 murders today. So I'm replaying Cyberpunk right now, so I'm just like, oh, I know that. I
No,
know that
100%.
very well.
I am at any given moment always replaying Cyberpunk. I think should be
Yeah,
the default assumption.
I feel that. I
Yeah,
was like, I had to finally knock off Phantom Liberty. I was like, hell yeah. I did it.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Did the thing. You're working on, speaking of Cyberpunk, you're working on Pan Am right now, right?
Yes.
You're
Um,
also doing Judy too, right?
yeah, so I
Okay.
am doing both
Because why
Pan
not?
Am first. Well, yeah, well, I've had the stuff to do Judy for years, literally since the game originally came out in
I was telling Telepath
2020.
when they were playing together Rogue, I was like, I'm pretty positive FaZe did a Judy or talked about like I assumed you already had and that I missed it or something.
Well, it's the curse of I have had or started for years, but the issue is I have done temporary tattoos for cosplay multiple times. They don't come off. And so
No.
I was like, and so if I'm going to wear her, it's either like it's going to be my last costume for a convention that weekend or it's a photo shoot. With KatsuCon, I was like, I really want to bring some of these cyberpunk, but I'm like, I can't bring Judy because like, granted, the other costume I'm wearing is orange, so it's like I'll be in a full bodysuit, but like I have nighttime events I have to go to, and so
Hmm.
I can't show up to like a fancy party and I have like all of Judy's tattoos. And I'm like, hey, what's up?
That is the struggle every time in PAX because washing Jack off is always a whole thing.
Yeah.
And if I do Ellie and if I've drawn the tattoo that day or if it's, one of the better tattoo papers, like some of them, will just like do the weird peel off and I hate them and
Yeah.
they're always like the last minute one. But it was really funny because before LA Comic Con this year, I just like wasn't feeling well and I was like, I want to throw together like a femme Vic from Cyberpunk to like surprise like my girlfriend. I'm like, could do that. It'll be super casual, not worry about it. And we were both so out of it and had like none of the right tattoo paper. We were like, I don't know how we're doing this all weekend because this is the start of the week and you're gonna have this whole sleeve of like this like boxing stuff on your
Yeah.
arm. And as we're sitting there applying it and nothing is working, we look and go, did you reverse this paper? And they're like, no, and we
Yeah.
had like half the sleeve applied, so you see like round just backwards. I'm like, nothing about this worked, but luckily it's like this shitty paper that you could just like cut off at the end of the day. So I just had like a band of swelling, and I'm like, this is the worst this could have gone, but at least it's for just like a casual thing that has
Casual
no
Monday.
evidence. Yeah, I was like, I was
I
gonna make
did.
videos and a shoot. I was like, no, this
No,
is
yeah, fuck that.
no,
I
this
completely
is
feel that.
casual.
I did Vi a couple years ago.
Oh,
And
did
so
you?
I had the whole back tattoo. That was a nightmare. I like the pictures I had to take the rest of the week. I was like, I'm gonna be real with you guys. Like, you are gonna see my arms and my back. I can't get it off. Um, it lasted forever. And then I did Rebecca from Cyberpunk at one point, and
Yeah.
I went to Cedar Point the next day, and my mom's like, "What is all over your neck?" I'm like, "I know this actually looks like a rash, but I promise it's not. It's tattoo paper." Because I was really stupid and thought, "Let's do this cosplay the night before
Every
I leave."
time. Every
Every time,
time.
this will
I
work.
I've gotten used to Jax at least. Like I used to have paper that would be impossible to get off. Like I would be scrubbing Skid Raw and he just has a tiny little wrist one. I'm like, this was a
Yeah,
nightmare. It's fine. But his of like, okay, I've had to paint on before, it's fine. The moment like we look at like Chloe Price or anyone like that, I'm like, this is all we're gonna be doing for the next like the fact you have to structure entire con. I don't think people realize when you're sitting here. I'm like, okay, where does Borderlands need to go in the lineup, and let's revert backwards from there because some days just it's not going to work.
no, I 100% feel that. I'm like my schedule got flip flopped for KatsuCon, so I'm doing orange first. And honestly, like I'm kind of grateful for that because I can tell by like day two, day three
Oh
of
yeah,
Katsu, I'm already going to be exhausted. That I'm not going to be like I want to put on this 2 hour long face makeup.
yeah. No,
So
it's I never want to do it, but I don't know why. Like
just
we
like
always
crying with a coffee, just like this is the worst day of my life.
I love the amount of TikToks I have started that have just been sitting drafts since 2021 where it's just like us starting in cosplay or starting out of cosplay and like I'm supposed to transition to something else and it just never happened because you're like 3 days into the
100%.
con and you're like no, I can't.
Literally. I I have so many of those. And I always try to get my partner to like help, but then afterwards I'm like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
No,
I'm
same.
mad.
I'm like, we will sit there and be like, okay, this is what we have to do in the morning. We have to find these sounds. We have to do this. We bring the tripod. Like, we're gonna do this so legit and get it actually done and work out all these drafts. We're gonna pre-record transitions, and then we'll be like running late, or we have to redo part of the makeup or something like that. And we just kind of sit there and go, okay, we'll do it when we come back to the hotel. I'm like, we know we won't. We know we won't. Like, this is
We
not
know we won't. We're
like,
tired.
we're lucky if we get a photo when we go back in. But I remember one time we walked into the hotel and I've been complaining about my contacts all day because like some days they don't bother me at all, and other days it's like they actively want to like fall out of my head. And I
No,
kept
I feel that.
saying Jax like was just like I felt like I kept losing the contact, and they're like, you're crazy. And as we're unlocking the door to the hotel, I looked down and the contact's sitting on my blazer from where it just like blinked out of my eye, and I was like, okay, yeah, we're done. No content. Like, this is
More. Bye.
we're done. We are already 1 foot out. Like, no, not recovering. Do you do the swap at night for like the other cosplays, or do you just like go out like a person?
You know, it really depends. Especially once I started going back to conventions in like 2022, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna like when I went to Colossal, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna switch into a different cosplay. It's gonna be more of a casual one, but I'll do that. Now I'm just like old. So I'm kind of like, I don't know. Like I've considered it, but like everyone keeps asking me, they're like, what is your Katsu lineup? And I'm like, I'll be honest, I have like 2 things and I have 1 meme costume. So that's probably the most you're gonna get out of me.
Honestly, respect though, because the pressure to do, I don't think people who don't cosplay realize the own internal pressure that comes with cosplaying at conventions and doing it frequently and needing lineups and different lineups and
Mhm.
multiple. Like, this past Anime Los Angeles was first time we had like a nighttime change to one, and it was like for such a non-event. Like, it's fun, but it was just like their little formal like ALAs. I love it because it's like the first month of the year that like kicks off everything. Like, it's literally first
Mhm.
week of
Yeah.
January, but it's just really niche, and there's not like the normal events that we would like go do at a
Mhm.
con. And so it always feels like less pressure, but that was the one that we actually go, okay, let's swap Baldur's Gate casual formal. Let's go. Let's like do something fun and like take a photo and like say we did it and move on. And that was exhausting. And all we had to do was change from an already pretty casual cosplay, like I was doing Persona 5 that day, and
Mhm.
then just swap into cool, do different makeup and, you know, elf ears and call it a day. We were pre-styled, and it was still already like, I am shocked that we managed to pull that off. And so people who have these full costume changes, especially when they're intricate, like very stylistic games, or body paint, god forbid, I don't know how people do body paint and move out, because you did that for Mystique. I can't remember if
Yeah.
I know a few of your
Um,
Baldur's Gate has body paint too, but I just,
yeah, I body paint a lot.
yeah,
And I tend to not. I don't think I've had a convention where I've like switched into something else. Um, I'm like trying to. Yeah, most of the conventions, if I've worn body paint to them, that's been my only thing of the day. Um, just because it's exhausting and it takes an extra like hour or so to even do the whole thing. Um, I mean, like I like it because I'm already not one to change multiple times, so it's not that big of a deal.
yeah,
Uh, it'll it'll be interesting though. I'm like trying to like what was the last convention? I guess technically when I went to GalaxyCon Columbus at the end of December, which is a new one in Columbus, which has actually gotten pretty popular. Um, and I did like a casual Orin the first day, and then the second day was when I did Mother Miranda. And so
nice.
though that was a weekend. I was exhausted. I was so happy I stayed at the convention center that weekend because those 2 costumes were a lot. But yeah, I don't think I could go in and switch and get out. Like I
No.
did a couple double changes and stuff when I did like one like wake up, get in the makeup, change, do a different costume. I did a couple of those like Hall Mat I've done it, and then Katsu last year I did it. Listen, it's a lot. If I
It's
can
a
have a
lot.
nap in between, like I'm
But there's
good.
not enough time either. Like, it doesn't matter if I start getting ready at 8 in the morning or 10 a.m. or 12, God forbid. We will not get to the con, no matter what cosplay we're in, until the early afternoon. Like, it does not matter how early we start, and I don't know why. And so at that point, you're just like, you go for a couple hours, come change. Like, unless there's like an event I need to be at or I'm supposed to be at in a certain cosplay, I will come touch up. But like, I'm impressed at PAX West when like the old like, oh, I'm tired, like we'll be like, we've spent all day getting in cosplay, we're out of cosplay, we come in, we change into human clothes and shower, and then have to like go out and be people and go interact and socialize. And I'm like, the fact that I have to put on then human makeup is
I'm
always
like, what
just
is
like,
this?
I know, I just feel so impressed by myself. Like I shower more during a con weekend than I do my normal life. And so it's just one of
I
those
feel
like,
like you need to at that point
you
because
need
that's
to.
like that's
You
that is a
Let's be
hazmat
clear.
hazard.
I do not want to. Like it always feels good, but I'm so exhausted that I want to be like, oh my god, no. I'll just I'm like, you need like you literally the first thing you need to do is shower. Like especially if you're doing someone like you brought up Mother Miranda. We really need to do a Resident Evil when we finally
Oh my,
like absolutely be so good because no one. Oh god, it's like such a. I don't know why it's always such a niche cosplay group because it's not. So many people cosplay so many good Resident Evil
mhm.
stuff, but it's so hard to like organically run into or like figure out a shoot. But there's so many cool places. But no, like I didn't really do a bunch of Lady D paint when I took her out to ALA because again, casual con, I was lazy. And so we did
Yeah,
a little bit on the face and I was like, I'm pale enough, it's fine. Like I don't
I
want to
know.
like sit here and do this. I had like a bra on underneath like this like half corset thing. It was like, we'll do this like properly one day, but like I was so tired at that point. My feet were just like, you want me to wear heels underneath this dress? Like, are you kidding me right now? Are you? I'm like, no. Props to all the lady dudes walk around on like stilts all day. Like I know some like I suck at
Yeah,
heels anyway, but can't do it. Cannot do it.
I have a couple of friends that do that, and I'm always just like, I am so happy for you. I could never do that.
I love that
Um,
journey for you.
I
Like
love this for you. This is where our paths divide. I'm going far away from that. I like when I first started cosplaying, and then when I first started getting any like sort of attention, I was like, okay, well, I I'm gonna take advantage of this, and I'm going to dress really sexy, and I'm going to dress in heels and stuff. And then I quickly found out that
it doesn't matter.
I I don't like doing that. And
It
it's
sucks.
it's like I like, photo shoots and stuff, perfect, fine. Going to a con in heels and having to like make sure that like my boobs aren't coming out. No, I can't do it. I'm like I'm out.
No,
Like,
even cosplaying
God.
Elizabeth, like Bioshock, like I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, we handmade the corset, so like one of them will like bend a little bit, like we need to redo the boning. So if I sit, it's just like part of my waist getting smaller all day, and then it's just stabbing me with part of the stuff in the front. And I never have a problem with like tight corsets really, but between that and the heels, and then like the stabbing, and then whatever, I start the day with like, okay, we're gonna be fine. We have on like makeup, we have the heels. It's gonna be a good day. And then by the end, I'm sitting here just like my boobs falling out, and just like I'm like, no, like I will rip this off in a parking garage right now. Like I can't do it.
No, I completely understand. I'm just like I can't do this. Like
Yeah,
I like and like it's always funny like looking back and like seeing all the mistakes that I also made as like a younger cosplayer too, and not knowing like the freaking dance tights instead of just yeah, the dance tights saved my life.
hmm
I was just going bare legged and being like, okay, this is going to be a bad situation for everybody. And now I've learned breaking in your shoes before the con. I have not done
absolutely.
that more times than I can count.
I need to do it way more. Like I have a pair of insoles that like live in Jack's shoes because Jack's shoes suck. They're like they were like nice men's shoes I got, and we were like these are gonna work fine. We'll make them look like sneakers. They're probably gonna be way more comfortable. I want to saw my feet off by the end of the day, and I'm at the point where I'm like, am I gonna spend hundreds of dollars getting custom insoles for every cosplay shoe that I wear frequently? Because I cannot do this anymore. It's a commitment. It's a commitment. But I've gotten to the
It's
point
what
where
Jack would do himself, so it
he
works.
would. He would. I really this is one of
It's
one of
LARPing at
my
this point.
one of my I wouldn't would it be a beige flag? I don't know. I
One of my
really
beige flags.
I really want to get custom Hyperion socks for his cosplay. And it's like you can't make them as easily because it's like so like they just look bad. I want these to look expensive, like expensive socks. And doing an iron on or a paint on those isn't the vibe. And I'm like, no one sees these. No one sees these. I'm like, but if I'm not wearing Hyperion underwear and Hyperion socks, what is the point? Because this man would
Yeah, come
have
on.
Hyperion branded clothes. This is
Yeah.
he absolutely would.
You have to become the character, obviously.
I
That's
mean, I
what you
kind of
do.
have, and it's a problem. And I feel like it seems like I just have schizophrenia sometimes streaming because it's just absolutely like it seems like a bit, but there's just like stuff that'll pop out of my mouth where I like feel like my brain rot is so deep that it's just like permanently this quarter of my
I
brain is reserved for Handsome Jack, and words come out, and it doesn't matter what game we're playing or what we're doing. It just is triggered and happens, and I'm like, this is not good. This is. I would love to turn this part off.
no, I get that.
Yeah,
I 100% get that.
yeah.
It's always the handsome Jacks.
It always is. It
He's
really
great
always
though.
is. He's the best. Like he's the worst, but he's like the best.
He's the worst. I met his voice actor at Fan Expo Cleveland, and that was awesome.
How was
Like,
he? How was he with you?
he was very nice with me.
He's always extremely nice. He's always extremely nice. I feel like depending on the day I get him, it's like literally just roulette a little bit on just how feral I feel like he is. But he's fantastic. I love it.
My mom, well, because it was when I was guesting at Fan Expo Cleveland, so my mom and sister came up from Columbus to come watch, come like see me and stuff. And I wore Maya that day specifically because I was like, I know he's here and stuff. So my mom's just like, run away from your booth for a second so that we can go meet him. And then I did meet him. It was really cool.
It's amazing.
And then we ended up actually getting another dog like the week after that. And so part of his name is inspired by Handsome Jack. So his name is Jack, but it's J-A-K because it's like Jack and Daxter, but he's also inspired by Handsome Jack.
Perfect.
So we have a lot. Like I already have another dog named after Borderlands. Let's just make it another. And I guess I guess technically 3 dogs because I have Lilith.
Yeah.
She's my girl. And then I have Ellie. And Ellie was not named after Borderlands, but I thought about it once she was named because my mom's husband named her. And I was like, well, technically,
this is a happy coincidence. Yeah.
Also a Borderlands character. And then we got Jack, and I'm like, also that dog was gonna have we were arguing about a bunch of different names for that dog because like my sister and I were trying to come up with something that we both liked because like we both don't live with my mom, but they're still like our dogs. So we're like, okay, we're gonna come up with a name that we like. Jack ended up winning, but it was a close tie because we also my sister really wanted Booker because she's a huge BioShock fan. So we did think about that one for a long time, but we ended up going with Jack, which I'm very happy about. But.
We have a cat named Booker. We have a cat named Booker and Sander. Remy got his name from Gambit, but a lot of people be like, "Oh, like Ratatouille." I'm like, "Yeah, that too." Like, absolutely,
yeah, he's absolutely
little rat. We love him
everything
after anything at all. But my fun, as I have the hat in the background here, my fun Troy Baker stories. We just met him at Anime Pasadena end of last year, and it was a day. It was really weird because Stephanie Young, the VA for Nisha, and then Troy Baker was there, and then Damian Clark was also there. I'm like, what is happening? And like Hammerlock and Lilith and all these people were also there, but their lines are just insane. And we're like, okay, we have an agenda.
Well, yeah, because Lilith is fucking
she's everywhere. She's fucking everywhere. And so like every time I'm like, that name looks familiar. I'm like, you don't even need to think about it. You know, like it's here's it's fine. And so it was one of those things where I didn't even realize Damien was going to be there. And when we met him before, I wasn't in Jack cosplay because I was a little bit of a pussy and like was like, no. And we went in BioShock the next day because we were delivering something for our friend that couldn't be there. And so we had a great conversation with him. It was super dead. I was very just word blurred, but like forever he was nice, and he literally went just tell everyone how fucking nice I am when he just like gave us a bunch of free shit and like whatever, and was like, that's exactly what I'll do. That's yes sir, go on, carry on, nice to meet you. And so when we went back this time, I don't know what I expected, but we went in a weird order where we went as Jack and Nisha, obviously, and we went to Stephanie Young first, and she flipped out because she's again like One Piece, all this stuff everywhere, like this, like people are there for anime. And it's so funny because on her banner, on her Twitter profile picture, on anything she has this tiny little Sheriff of Lynchwood everywhere. Like she is clearly in love with the fact that she plays Anisha, and like no one comes to her for it. So she walked up, she goes, you're the sheriff. Oh my God. And she like got up and like took our photo with us for her. And she was like, have you seen Damien yet? Like, oh my God, Troy's like absolutely lost her shit. It was the sweetest thing, whatever. Troy's already left for the day. So we're like, we'll see him in the morning because we were coming. I was going to be Ellie and Telepath was going to be Chloe Price. We're like, we'll just go as the lesbians for the day and like move on, right? Like we don't want to worry about it. Obviously. And so we go over to Damien. And we didn't have anything to sign or anything that day. We were just like going to say hi and not be a bitch about it. And as we're walking up, he goes, wow, you two look like shit. And I'm like, I love you. Like, this is fine.
Perfect.
A perfect interaction. So we stand and talk forever. We get photo. Like I wasn't going to get anything. And he was just like, no, we need a photo. Like, and we're just like, Okay. And he signed my Echo. He signed the vault key. He just kind of took it out of our hands, like signed. We're like, okay, I guess it's yours now. We are now getting this signed by Borderlands actors. Let's go. And so we weren't going to go back the next day, but we were like, just maybe let's just go to Troy Baker. We never do the meet and greet things, but Troy Baker is Troy Baker. Like, it's just one of those things where me as a writer, me as an actor, I don't really get starstruck a lot of the time because I've had to work with a lot of people in Hollywood and stuff like that. But there are just the people that I just respect on such a level and I want to work with at such a level. It feels so weird to go up as a fan. Damien's usually one of them. But like Troy was like just this other being, right?
Yeah,
and
I completely understand.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, well, like let's take your BioShock Infinite DVD, like little case, like Xbox 360 case, and we'll see if we can buy that. We'll spend the last of our money getting this autograph from him, and we don't need to figure it out. Like, let's just go. And last minute, I grabbed my Hyperion hat that I got from like Etsy and was like, it's covered in dog hair. I like grabbed it from the floor. It was just like, maybe. And I have a problem when I talk to VAs when I'm a little bit flustered that I just immediately, like when I first met Damien, I walked up to him and was like, where the fuck were you yesterday? Like, I just 100%.
Yesterday?
I literally asked, no offense, because it was like while MagFest, or like, I forget at the time what massive con in Florida was going on, but there were like 5 cons that weekend, and he was in this tiny little comic focused convention in this random little town in SoCal, and I was like shitty hotels we were at, and I was just like, why are you here? Like, why here? And he's like, I don't know. I just like moved to the area. I was like, cool. Like, I don't know. Like, Telepath's just like, you have something in your brain that when you talk to Damian Clark, you just lose any sense of how to have a conversation. And granted, he does with me too.
Where the fuck were you?
No, literally. Like, he asked me something last time about like Twitch or whatever, and we were talking, and mid-sentence, he goes, what's your natural hair color? Like, while I'm talking. And I was like so thrown off. I'm like, we just have this, like, we can't listen, like, it's so weird.
I completely understand.
So apparently Troy Baker, what I decided to do when we go up, because I was like, no, babe, I love you so much. Let's get a selfie. I'll buy you a selfie. We'll just get him to sign the stuff. I don't need anything. It's fine. And we go up, and he's just like, stop. I was like, we have some bullshit for you to sign. And he was like, let's see the bullshit. And I'm like, great. And so pull out the BioShock Infinite case, and he goes, not bullshit. And so he sits there and talks about it, signs it, and I out at Telepath, I'm like, oh, she actually has a Booker DeWitt cosplay that like we were gonna wear. And they're like, oh my god, shut up, kind of thing. And I'm sitting there, of course, in Ellie, like hating my wig, like ignore me, it's fine. I'm not pretending like I'm not staring you in the face in a Last of Us cosplay. And because I think I was in Ellie, he wasn't expecting it. I'm like, okay, so this bullshit. And I pull out the Hyperion hat, and he goes, shut the fuck up. And I was like, and he was like, I love Borderlands. So have you seen Damien? Has Damien signed this yet? You need to. I love Borderlands so much, dude. And he starts ranting, and I'm like, this is I made Troy Baker happy. This is all I need in my life. Like, he was genuinely so unexpected to like see something in Borderlands. And so he lost his shit. He signed it. He absolutely was like, you need to take this over to Damien. This is amazing. This is like, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming. We're like, oh my god, we gotta selfie. And as we're walking away, he was like, wait, we need our bullshit selfie. And so we take a selfie, and he like goes away. I'm like, okay, he's cool. I love him. We go back to Stephanie because we were gonna give her the Jack Nisha fanzine that the community did, and because we had an extra copy because our friend designed the cover, and we'd given it to Damien at that one con like a couple years before. And so we went up and clearly looking completely different, and she's just like, oh, we're like, hi, we were here yesterday. We were like, the sheriff and Jack, we just wanted to give you this while we were like catching you. And she was like, oh my God, like Troy and Damien and I were talking about you this morning. Like we were just like showing each other. I was like, did you see the Borderlands people? Because like Troy had left. So we were showing photos. We're like, this is too much at this point. Like I did not need it. Like we did not feel good that day. Like it was one of those like, well, we just gotta go. It's a local con. We gotta like haul ass. But she like melted over this fanzine. We go over to Damien and we say hi. He's like, oh, have we met before? Like he was like completely different person that day, but he like signs a hat and he's just like being a total like fake D-bag about it. But like I'm just like, this man is so specific, and everyone was so unexpectedly like completely out of character but absolutely in character at the same. Like it was exactly what I expected from everyone, but completely not remotely anything. I'm like, I need to do this more. I need to actually like get over myself and go talk to people because they get so excited. And then you have Damien just sitting
like, who the hell are you?
Who the hell are you? It's fine. He's like, oh, did we already get a photo yesterday? I'm like, yeah, we did. Don't worry about it. It's okay, buddy.
It's really funny to see like the voice actors that do Borderlands, and then you come up and you say, hey, I know you from Borderlands. And they're like,
They lose
like,
their shit.
It's so funny, but I when I went to Hallmat back at the end of 2022, me and a couple friends, we did the two Liliths and the Maya and Handsome Jack, and we went and I was like, "Hey, uh Jamie Marchi is here," and I'm
Yeah.
like I bet she would really be excited to see us because I don't know how many people she gets for Ellie. I mean, everyone there is for Junko,
Oh
like,
yeah,
and so
absolutely.
we went up to meet her and she freaked out and she like took our picture and then she was telling us about like the writing work she's done for Gearbox and like everything. And so we were having this whole conversation and talking about Ellie and stuff. It was one of the coolest experiences. Which is why I really want to meet Colleen Clinton. I
Yeah,
can't yeah, because I mean like everyone comes to her for Luffy. I mean, which makes
exactly.
sense. One Piece but I want to be like, hey, so Lilith is my
Hey,
favorite character of all time.
honestly, what we need to do is like when we have a few Borderlands people at one con, we need to coordinate where we go as like Tannis, we go as Lilith, we go as Lilith 2.0, we go like just have the line of all of her characters in Borderlands because
Like we're here.
exactly like we are your fan club. This is us because yeah, Borderlands VAs and like writers and everything, but like people who work on Borderlands, it's like it feels so massive of a fandom and it's clearly like a huge game, but it's weirdly not in the scheme of kind of what people are known for and what they're there. And it's just these actors are like doing so many things, like ton of anime, ton of, other video games, like anything you could throw a dart at, like you're gonna find people who have been in all this, but no one knows them for Borderlands. And it's so weird for me that like they get so genuinely still excited when they
Mhm.
spot something, and it makes me so happy. Like I've run into the writer of the new graphic novel for Borderlands a couple times, and one time was SDCC. She was on a panel. It was cool, whatever. But I remember one time we were at WonderCon walking, and she like chased us down a hallway to come over and like get a photo, and I was like, oh my god, no, I know you. And it was like one of these back and forth
Wait
things
a minute.
where she's like, I'm writing the graphic novel. Like I love Borderlands. And like the excitement people have for this series is one of the reasons. It's like I love so many games. Something about Borderlands, just like the pure passion behind the cosplay. Like when people are like, oh, do this character, I'm like, making a Borderlands cosplay is a whole thing. Like ask any Borderlands cosplayer, they will complain about the belts and they will talk something about one piece of the
Not
costume
the
that's insane.
belts.
The belts are impossible. Like it's
The
just so many
belts.
layers. But like it's a
Don't get
labor
a
of
group of
love.
Borderlands cosplayers together. They'll just talk about belts the whole time.
Literally get one of them drunk and it's going to be a ripple effect of like, why the fuck are there so many belts every time?
It has been really funny, and I think a lot of it is like you said. If you like Borderlands to the level that you do, to make a Borderlands costume, you have to like it a whole lot
Yeah,
because holy cow.
yeah.
Like I finished making my third Lilith costume while I had COVID because I was like, I need to get this done. I have to do
You're
it. I'm
insane.
dedicated. I'm like, I have to get this shit done. I had to lay down. I'm like, I'm dizzy. I'm back up again. I'm dizzy. I'm back up.
You like
Um,
pin something over and just like, okay, like little nap break, like don't mess with the pins.
I'm like it's fine. I often tell people too, because I get a lot of people who say things like, well, like it's gonna sound like a brag, like, "Oh, you're talented. How did you make this? How did you do that? How did you?" And I'm like, to be completely honest, the reason that I started putting effort into cosplay was because of Borderlands.
Oh, same.
And I was so afraid. I like Lilith version one was the first Borderlands cosplay I ever did, and she's my favorite character. And I was like, I love her. I love this game so much. I really want to make her. So I was scared of the wig, so I started with the first costume, even though the second Lilith look is my favorite. And so I did that and I was like I finished it and I'm like I can do better. And then I made Maya and I was like, yeah. And then I made Maya number 3 and I was like, yeah. And then I made Lilith number 2 and I was like, we're getting here, baby. And honestly it taught me so much about art and like color theory and how to make things and how to make things that are comfortable and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
So I often just tell people, I'm like, just get really obsessed with some series
Get that
and
hyperfixation juice going
and
somewhere.
just love it enough to the point that you're going to just keep making things. Like I didn't make a Borderlands costume this year, which was crazy to me, but I made a costume from Hades. And so
Which
that
looks
fulfilled
fantastic, by the way.
thank you. which fulfilled my like cell shading like drive and everything. Because normally if I go too long without cell shading something, my brain is like, "What is wrong with you?" It starts yelling at
I
me.
will want to cel shade a backpack or something I'm looking at. I'm just like, I don't have enough like things. I'm like, you were fine. Like, this is not something you need. You have how many unfinished cosplays that have been sitting here for years that you're like, oh, I'm working on them, and then never do. Just pick one of those. I'm like, I think I need to get a bag, or I need to get a shirt and just cel shade it. What if I read a Jack shirt? Like, it's just
But
absolutely a problem.
like a lot of what I found of what you've learned from cell shading and painting like that is it teaches you how to paint costumes that aren't cell shaded. Like
Hmm.
I'm working on Orin right now, and her costume looks is literally human skin, just
Yeah.
inside out. Yeah. And a lot of it is I get people asking how I do the paint job, and I'm like, you just I break it all down like analytically in my head. I'm like, this is where the shadow goes, this is where the darker shadow goes, this is where the lighter shadow, then you need another light shadow. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm one step away from drawing in lines. So
Yeah.
I'm like, just don't do it till there. But yeah,
It's a lot of trust the process, and cell
oh,
shading
trust
makes
the
you,
process.
because it's not
Yeah.
real cell shading either, and that's when it's always like it's such a specific style, but it does help you with these shadows and like anything that feels not hyper realistic cosplay, like making anything that has that depth to it. Absolutely,
Mhm.
but it's helped with like, yeah, like I need to paint metal, I need to do something. It's helped even just in the most basic ways of cool, rather than just why can't I get this to look darker? I'm like, how about instead white is not going to help here to make this part look darker. So don't do it. Like,
Um, I I remember when I was working on Nemesis last year, I was painting it, and I know everybody was saying the people that were also working on like Hades costumes or Borderlands costumes and stuff, they were all saying like I love cell shading and it's a fun painting style, but I always forget how long it takes. And meanwhile, in my head, I'm just like oh, the normal amount of time for a paint job, because I'm so used to it. And then I get to another project where it's not that, and I'm like, oh, what people mean when they say painting can happen faster. I'm like, oh, wait
yeah,
a minute,
like you
you're
don't
right.
have the 18 layers you need to do. And yeah.
I'm so used to being like zoomed in on my fabric and then having it up on my computer and also being majorly zoomed in, and I'm just like,
Are
this
you
is how
like
you do
me
it.
and cursed with the being a celeb for screen accuracy, or are you?
Oh, 100%. It's a
It's the
problem.
worst because here's the thing, I never look at other people's cosplays and go, well, that's not accurate. I love when people take liberties. I think it's so fucking cool. They usually improve a lot of stuff because they're doing in their season. Me, I am not allowed. I'm like, well, I don't have the same shading on my collar
It's not
here, so I need
correct.
to redo the whole thing.
My one little thing that I will fight people to the death on when it comes to Borderlands and screen accuracy, because I don't really care. I'm like, do whatever you want. But the one thing for some reason that always makes me mad, and it's just because I'm a freaking super fan, so I'm like the super fans that get mean,
Yeah, say.
is this is my only hill I will die on. And every time I give a panel on body painting or makeup in general, I'm like, Maya's eyebrows are brown. She dyes her hair blue.
Literally. No,
And I know it's so stupid, but I do it all the time. I'm like, she dyes her hair.
I feel that in my soul. Like there are so many needless things about Jack where I'm just like the patches on the other. Like it does
Like
not
I don't
matter.
care, but like for me, I'm just like, I don't really care, but it just always makes me laugh because I'll sit there and I'll be like, her eyebrows aren't blue.
No.
Look at your reference shot. And like it's so stupid. Like I said, I would never. It's not real. It's just
It's
for
not
me.
real, but
But
it's a thing. No, I absolutely get it, and it's something that like it shouldn't be. But I'm like that so much with Jack and his like little details on his mask or like whatever how people do. I'm like, no, that's not the functionality of it. It doesn't matter. It's fine. Or the day I remember I was filming TikToks like ages ago, and it was back even before it was the remake of the Jack. So I had like now I have like a custom blazer and like it's all like all that stuff. But before it was a repurposed blazer repainted and all that stuff. And so it was already not screen accurate. It already wasn't like what I wanted it, but it still looked what it did. And I remember doing makeup at like midnight trying to film these TikToks, and I was decided to pull up a reference because I normally like just stop doing it. And I zoomed in on his face and I stopped and I realized he had clamps like also right here in the corner of his eyes that I had never fucking noticed before. And I'm like, how many times have I stared at this man's face in detail to find exactly where something is? So then I just sat down and lost like an hour going over every detail of this man's face and costume to be like, where is something I'm like not missing? And every time I still draw in these fucking clasps now where I'm just like, I need a little bit of like silver or white here to go with it. Otherwise
Yeah.
my brain goes, no, you forgot the very important detail of his eye clasp for his mask that everyone is going to notice. You're going to look like an idiot if you don't. And I'm like, I've never seen a single person worry about this.
Yeah, no, I completely I get that. Holy hell, do I get that.
Yeah.
One of the I'm like I'm a slut for like costume design. Like I
Same.
love when costumes tell the story. So, as I've been working on Orin and stuff, I luckily they released like all the art station pictures so you can actually get like good close-ups and stuff. It is so absolutely insane to me how detail developers can get sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, especially with Larian and Baldur's Gate and stuff. Like, I'm zoomed in on Orin's crown just to literally just make her crown. And I'm like, well, there's a ton of tadpole references in it. There's a ton of big three references. Like everything in this crown that you see only if you zoom in and look. And then like you turn around and her braid is filled with jewelry and everything.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's just like looking at it and being like, it's like, no, I get it. It's like the people that put time in, like with handsome Jack and the clasps around his eyes and stuff, and being like, well, yeah, no, I guess that would make sense too, and stuff, and like actually zooming in and being like, nobody is going to catch this, but
No.
the fact that there are artists and concept designers and everything out there that are just like, we're gonna put this in anyway because the 5 people that will see it are gonna be like,
Well, that's why I love like one of my favorite details about like his mask is like it's just a like the way it's withered like up near the top. Like it's very specific in the way like you see it flaking off. And I have too many headcanons about his clothes and why that's not like because you think with a character like that it would be like everything is pristine, we have this, it's all
Mhm.
okay. But it's when this does he ever take it off? How does he do it? Does it change? Because when we see him without it after we kill him, his eye goes back to being blind. So I'm like, okay, does it restore the vision in that eye? Is it actually this thing? Too many things I've given so much thought, but I know those costume like designers and everyone doing it, these character designs put this thought into it. So I don't feel entirely crazy, but I do when I talk about it with people because there is that line. Like when we were working on the Baldur's Gate stuff, it was like I think it was Shadowheart's little hair piece that we were
Mhm.
talking about arguing about where it's just like so many little things that in practicality are way harder to implement into a costume for like IRL stuff when it's video game, but like it's there for a reason. And it's just at what point am I willing to like sacrifice something that I feel like is like screen accurate, like this whole thing? Because people don't notice. Like we ended up not like Telepath ended up not using the hairpiece because it just like we couldn't work it out in the last minute. But everyone knew who she was. Like this
Yeah.
wasn't a thing, and people were so excited. But we were sitting there like, well, we know though. Like it's just,
But we know.
but we know it's a curse, honestly. And I wish us all freedom at some point one day.
I think a lot of that love and just like the love for the details like that. I mean, like I was somebody that liked English class, so I always like
Oh,
why
same.
are the curtains blue and stuff. And then, like I love little things like that. I love people expressing their creativity. And I think it's really been strengthened. Like I'm a huge From Software fan, so like
Yeah.
Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, and stuff. Like I will sit there and just like play those games for hours, watch the lore videos and stuff. And I think it's and people like to make the joke that like, oh, uh somebody's mask changed to a slightly lighter black color, like there's going to be a 30-minute video about why it has to do with the lore and stuff. And it's like I love that because when you watch those videos and you like actually go through and like because the stories aren't overt, so you kind of have to pick it up from the environment, from talking to people, and from like reading item descriptions. It's amazing to see amount of love and effort that these games just have in them, knowing that most of these people are probably not going to see it. It's like the
Yeah.
joke with like Dark Souls and like hidden walls. Like, who was the first person to hit a wall and go, "Oh, wait a minute, here's an entire extra room"? And it just blows my mind because it's like I'm so used to like I feel like a lot of media now like they're afraid of you know the consumer missing something important.
Yeah.
And like I do understand you put a lot of effort into something, you don't want somebody to completely miss this and then your
But they
work
do.
doesn't.
They
But it's
do
like, but there's
regardless.
always going to be people that are going to go through and they're going to look through and analyze every single thing. And then a lot of people, as a result, with I feel like that kind of media consumption. People are like, you're reading too much into things. And you know what? There are
Mhm.
chances that you probably are. Like,
Yeah.
like it could have been a glitch, it could have been something stupid. But like for the chances that you do, it is just so it just strengthens my love, honestly, for video games as an art form
Oh,
and video games in
same.
general. Um, I have this conversation like all the time. I like my dad's probably annoyed with me because we'll go out to dinner. I'll be like, "Kid, let me tell you my story about why Bloodborne is the game of the year in 2024. We're bringing it back around." Um, but I think that's also what made like Baldur's Gate 3 so refreshing. It's because they're going almost feels like we're going back to that idea that hey,
Oh,
there's a
yeah.
lot of little things in these games and you might miss it or you might lock yourself out of it based on your decisions, but that just means you can boot it up and play it again, or you can watch videos about it, or you can think about it and write about it. And I just feel like it's an endless font and creativity.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what I feel like I go back to all the time, where I feel this sounds and like embarrassing to say it out loud because I'm like, in my 30s and like sitting here. I adore game writers. There's some
Mm,
of like game writers and devs are some of my like they're just the coolest. And I say this as like I've been writing scripts since 5th grade. Like I have been very much like this is what I want to do, and I want to act, I want to write, and I just when people are like, "Oh, but like gun to your head if you had to choose acting or writing." I'm like, one, no, doesn't work like that. But two, I will be writing every day until I die, even if I don't do it professionally. Like I've just always been doing that. Like I want to perform, I want to do this, whatever. It took up until I think it was last PAX West or something, a little bit after, where it occurred to me that it had never occurred to me that I could write games. Like that's a job that's available to people. Like that
mm,
is, and I had no like it wherever in my neurodivergent brain, because I grew up obsessed with games. Like I say, the PS2 is owed child support for raising me all the time. Like I so
I feel
absolutely
that.
right, and I'm like, there's just so much in even like Sims has lore. Like I was just always so into this lore. And it was my argument when I would be pitching TV shows or films or whatever would be, well, video games, you get this immersion because you spend a 40-hour campaign with these characters. So you get this character development that you can't get in a 2-hour movie, or you get all of these stories that you can't get in a 10 episode arc because you're having to jump around and keep this pacing. Like this could be, 2 days span that is this campaign if you really wanted it to be. And I just would get so into it. And so I know there's stuff that I like read into because it's very much like the writer brain of like, oh, okay, well, this could mean whatever. But I will die on the hill that the stuff I talk about, like actors put in thought into their performance and writers put in thought to little things. And sometimes it's throwaway as a gag, but I have never left one of my projects and been upset that people are reading more into it than I did. Like people will
Yeah.
find meaning and stuff. They'll be like, "Oh my god, see, that's why she did that." Like I've had people come back to me telling me how genius putting this one thing in a script was that I did, and I'm like, "I didn't mean to do that. That's not.
I didn't do
I didn't do that with. I'm so glad. Yes, I'm so glad you figured out that I did that. That is. I'm so
Yes,
glad you
that's
noticed
exactly
that
my
parallel
plan.
that I did." And I'm like, I just threw spaghetti at a wall sometimes, and I'm like, "Oh, that worked. I like that beat." And instead, it is exact parallel to something that I did ages ago, and it just works out because I feel like a lot of that I believe is inherently in your creative brain somewhere when you're making extended stuff like that. Like it may not be an intentional parallel, but the parallels happen or the step happens and whatever. And it's one of those things where games specifically I just freaking adore because there is so big of a world to explore no matter the game. Like the amount of hours I've lost into Life is Strange, like I so much that I can't even replay it now. Really, like every time I go, oh, I'm gonna like sit down and I'm feeling like a little nostalgic. This is gonna be a good one. I've played it too many times. I get bored after like a little bit. And I can't do it because I have memorized every dialogue option. I have dissected everything that exists within those game files multiple times. So I can't even replay it anymore. But like that world arguably shouldn't have that many hours, like the hundreds of
Mhm.
hours I've put into it for the 16-hour game that I've gone out of it. But there's a whole world for it, and I can't do that with the same with like even like Marvel. Or like I love comics, I love whatever group of Star Wars. Like I just like it's just different when it's a game property, and I don't know why exactly, but it's taken a very long time to realize that is I don't know, just a very common feeling I feel like with the people who actually make this stuff.
I think it's just like, I mean, like you kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, you are in the player's seat. I mean, you are the main character, basically. You have the ability to, even with the most linear games, you're still making a choice. Like your
Yeah.
choices, do you keep going or do you stop and turn off the game?
That's why
It's kind
Bioshock
of,
is genius. Bioshock is
yeah,
fucking
it's
genius.
like, you have the choice the whole time, and then they're like, hey, actually, haha, that's part of the game. Um, and like I've always kind of been on the side. Like I've been obsessed with video games my entire life, and I always get like I've worked in schools and stuff before, and I always get the people like, I don't want my kids playing video games all day long. I'm like, I understand kids need to be outside and stuff too, but I'm just like, I feel like most of my creative brain and everything honestly stemmed from playing video games. Like we make a
Yeah.
joke, my mom and I, that um like I was obsessed with Spyro as a kid. I was a Spyro kid through and through. And I have vivid memories of sobbing because my memory card failed and my parents both trying to console me, which did not work. But like my mom was like, my dad would be like, why are you always letting her play that game? And I was like, well, number one, it's taught her how to read actually, because I would skip through the dialogue options so fast. So I would just read them because, the ADHD brain, I'd be sitting there
Yeah,
like, okay, I'm
absolutely.
done, I'm done. I'm done. But I just think being able to like get in and explore these worlds and learn new stories, because it's very hard to keep my attention sometimes, and I think learning good stories through the means of playing and actively having a part in it is what actually got me to be like, oh, instead of like, because watching movies, I can't watch movies. I don't have the attention span for it. Like me and my
Yeah.
partner joke about that all the time. I'm like, I need to be playing something or, even reading something and stuff. And I owe a lot of my creative brain and honestly learning a lot about the differences in like morality, black and white versus gray morality, I think is something that really gets across in games
Oh yeah.
over because like I'm playing Cyberpunk right now, and I'm playing Phantom Liberty, and like no spoilers, but there are a lot of decisions in that game that are very gray morality that I had to
Yeah.
sit there as a 27-year-old and be like, I don't know what the right answer is. I
Hmm.
cannot tell you what it is. And I think games introducing that, like, it's part of the reason I love Fallout New Vegas so much, is because the whole game is about like you can do good, but every single time you do good, something bad's going to happen too, because that's just how life. I mean, that's not always how
Yeah.
life is, but it's like
But
it's
it's
it's not
yeah.
it's not it's not like here's the good option, here's the evil option, and you're only going to pick the good option. And it's like, well, um, it's different.
Yeah.
I love having the whole aspect of reality. I don't think that watching movies or TV shows could have really gotten that across to me, because I think you almost need to be in the player's seat to fully understand the weight of your decisions. I don't watch a
Yeah.
movie and then go like, "Oh, well, he shouldn't have done that, and since he shouldn't have done that, I don't like him."
A lot
Like
of
what are you going to
people
be?
do though.
Yeah.
Like, and it blows my mind. Like the to go back to what you're talking about with the media consumption and just the habits people have. It's pretentious, but I get so upset about the just general lack of media literacy right now, where people are just
Mhm.
unwilling to have these morally gray characters, or if a character makes the wrong choice, it's suddenly like a support of that wrong choice, and then this, right? Like people take things so literally, I think, a lot of the times, and aren't willing to see the benefit of that. Like I think that's one of the powerful things about Last of Us, where it's the argument with the ending of the first of, did Joel make the right decision? And
Mhm.
is there an answer to that? Is there not? Because I very much, it's the same with like Life is Strange, where I'm like, nope, save Chloe, like let's go. Like that's what she would do in that moment, but also would that be the right thing to do? With Joel, it's very much this is, I think, a very relatable choice, but I see people try to justify it in ways that don't exist in the canon. Like I just saw this whole comment thread about and no spoilers for two at all, but this whole comment thread about one being like, oh well, they never could have made a vaccine anyway because it says in this whole thing. I'm like, that's not there though. Like the Neil has confirmed, like Neil Druckmann confirmed that it would have worked. It would have worked. Is where it's at. That is the intention of the story, and people really will go out of their way to make it where no, Joel was actually like completely morally right here and everything. I'm like, but it's more interesting if he's wrong. Like, let's just put
Like
that there.
the whole point, as I think of the last of things like that, is nobody is right. I guess.
Exactly. And that's
Like,
cyberpunk too. Like it's
yeah,
just
it's
what do you do in that
and
situation?
and and I think I get it. It is hard to have those discussions. Like if you are, I would say probably a relatively normal person, you want to do the right thing. You want to be
Yeah.
a good person. And these games, like, sometimes it's on a very extreme scale, like with The Last of Us and stuff. They're going to make you sit there and be like, hey, you're going to do the wrong choice. And that's something you need to accept because you can't always do the right choice. You should strive to do the right
Yeah.
choice. But at the end of the day, like, it's life. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to do something and you're going to hurt somebody. And those are just and I mean, the severity of the hurt is often different and stuff. But I think that having you in those roles in the first person and even in third person, but just having you make all those decisions is just a really good hammering point. Because, like, I've been on the internet since The Last of Us one came out. I have heard every argument they have to
Oh
make and
yeah.
stuff. And then when the show came out and everything, like, it's like, did he make the right choice? You know what? I can't say
The fact we're
because
still having that
yeah.
argument, though, it should tell us all we need to know about how great that is. Like, no one talks about it with the Bioshock series anymore, really, like in the heyday, but it's just like people are like, oh, Bioshock, and move on. But I think one does a really great job with even just harvesting the little sisters or not. Because I remember first playing it, I was just like, I had no idea. I thought I had to, and then I was like, oh, but the guilt of it, but you do get gain immediately from it. And there's no like there are consequences for choosing what you do, but it's not like the world completely shifts kind of consequences, right? But the entire series, I think, shows you so much that like your choices lead to ABC, and then Infinite takes it and be like, no matter what choice you make, this is always going to be where we end up. And I think that's a really interesting turn of what they did and why those games tend to be so effective with people and why those betrayals really work or the attachments really work and why Elizabeth feels like a real person and you feel really attached to her. And, all the stuff they did right, I think is a masterclass that I really love the amount of games. And I don't want, I mean, Bioshock absolutely was a watershed moment, but I don't want to give it all the credit to bringing more choices into all video games. But like games, I remember growing up, were very linear. Like this is your story, this is your action adventure. And when things like, Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead came around and people were just like having that more RP style interactive game. And now we just have these like fleshed out, like, yeah, we still have Telltale. Yeah, we still have like true choice based, but like, Cyberpunk is a great example there where there are so many diverting paths and none of them feel good. Like the fact that like V doesn't have like a happy ending, I think is very real because even like with Pan Am, like I know everyone's like, oh, this is like the objectively best ending. I still feel wrong about it with that ending. Like I go with it, like Pan Am's my girl, but
Confirmed.
yeah,
Like we don't know what happened.
we don't know. And I also feel like V at that point, like, yes, it would make sense like leave Night City, go do this, but like it crushes me everything else he leaves in the process. And like there's never anything that lets you just get away with going, oh cool, you did the thing. Like congratulations, this was the right move. And I love that. I love that Tales from the Borderlands does that really well with trusting Jack or trusting Fiona. Like I will always trust Jack because I feel like that's the more interesting narrative, the decision for me. But trusting Fiona does have a lot of payoff, like in that your interactions change a lot with that. And it's so effective to have you, driving the car at that point in ways that TV and movies can't really do. So when I see people having arguments about, like I remember when Civil War came out, the Marvel movie, I just like I couldn't engage with people because I was like, this is pissing me off too much. Like I can't. It just activates some rage in me that I just are these arguments about in a way that games like people will come in to my chat and we'll like start arguing about Ava or arguing about Jack or something like that. I'm like, I need y'all to understand that a character being bad isn't like it's a good thing. Like your story is only as strong as your antagonist, and that doesn't have to be like, hey, this is a serial killer megalomaniac, but like you need those stakes there to do anything. And it's always going to be the more interesting choice to have someone care. I rant so much about Jack loving Angel, for example. And people are always like, no, absolutely not. I'm like, I'm not saying it's not abusive. I'm not saying it's not toxic. I'm saying to him, a man who was physically abused and rejected by his family, he doesn't see what he's doing as that. Like the cycle of abuse is a real thing. Like it is always the more interesting thing to be like, this is something he cares about and it's taken away, which is why we see that abrupt change in him and too, and why that path is so effective. And people will come in all the time and be like, well, this is why he's actually like, he doesn't love her. He doesn't this. I'm like, it is more interesting regardless to have someone care about something, to have a reason, to have a stake. And games really do a better job than any media. I feel like it, books included for me, where you do empathize with your antagonist a lot of the time. And Cyberpunk is one of the smartest ones for that for me, where it's no matter the path you go, there's something that is going to punch you in the face and it's going to be like, was Arasaka actually bad? Like there's like the varying degrees of like, were we on the right side this whole time? And I don't know. It just it blows my mind when people aren't into video game lore, but they're into video games because I'm like, it's all right there. Like I love some raw gameplay. Don't get me wrong, but I just there's so much to it and so much depth to it, which is why I think that passion really comes out with the cosplay community. And what I argue with the more strictly gaming side all the time, where I'm like, you have to understand, like me being on like the Twitch side and stuff like that, and the mechanics of the game, like talking to people, also interacting with the cosplay side or the, you know, creator side, where if they're the people making fan art and the artist alley at cons and stuff like that. And I'm like, I see this passion for these games in so many ways, and so do the creators that are actually making the cosplays and the content on the side, that the fandom's not black and white. Like it's not, I don't know. People just think I'm crazy half the time. I'm like, video games, just man, video games, just video games. Portal does it so well.
Yeah.
Just everything.
I think one of my like hammering points that I think with like video games and specifically telling the story is I think because I mean like I've said before, it's not being told to you. Well, there are parts that are being told to you, but you are doing a lot of things. But I think a perfect example of it is Cyberpunk, because like I don't think the story would be just as effective if it was you watching it,
Oh no.
because it's something that I've been like experiencing a lot through this is I've been like the entire theme or storyline is V doesn't want to die. V doesn't want to do this. But playing throughout the game, you are killing person upon person. Like you kill relentlessly. You have a name for yourself as knowing doing that. And it's kind of just like, why is your life held in such a high regard versus all these other people that you're doing? And then, you know, like game will like to be like, oh, they're gang bangers. Or I don't know. They'll
Yeah.
say something like that. But it's like, and that's something I really, and especially, I'm no spoilers for Phantom Liberty, but it hammers it home a lot
Yeah.
in Phantom Liberty as well. And you know, it's just like the same thing with Borderlands. Like you're fighting, and I think they do bring it up at some point, but like you're fighting to stop Handsome Jack, who wants to basically cleanse the entire planet out of bandits and stuff, when you're doing the same exact thing. You just don't have the backing of a $1 million corporation.
I yell about that
Like,
all the time. We're not the
yeah,
good guys in Borderlands. Like we are the protagonist. But as far as the world goes, we're still killing everyone, kicking them out of their homes, taking sanctuary, doing our thing. Like it's a
yeah,
selfish. We're still going after the vault. Like yeah, just because you have a good thing along the way of going, hey, it's probably worse if that's happening, doesn't take away the fact that we're doing morally corrupt things and our morals can't apply in
yeah,
the same way. And I think the thing with Cyberpunk for me is that it was the first game, genuinely, I think the first game outside of Bioshock 1. Bioshock 1 just felt like a super, it had to be exactly what it was, but it was a standalone thing. But I've always been a third person bitch because I grew up with PlayStation. Like that was just like what I had. And it was usually the more the more just story rich games and everything like that I had at the time. And it wasn't until Cyberpunk that I was like, okay, no, this couldn't be third person. And so when I see stuff about, oh, well, should Cyberpunk 2 be third person? I'm like, no. No, it was
it's not going to come across the same way.
No, and I'm so glad that there was a game that really like opened me and converted me to that concept, because again, I love third. I can still get really invested in it. But Cyberpunk wouldn't have been remotely the same experience if you, like when Vic's telling you you're sitting there gonna die and he like can't even look at you, it wouldn't have been the same if you weren't V.
I'm like one of the like little things that always gets me with Cyberpunk 2, and it's pretty little, but as somebody with low iron, I know exactly what it feels like to have the relic malfunction. I'm like, oh, this is a Disney. I'm like, I almost can't sit through it because I'm just like, oh, I know exactly what this feels like, and so I'm just like, oh, this is too real. But like, it wouldn't have gotten through that you're dying if you were not in first person. It's not hammering that point and the extreme, like the extremity of it, and. No, and you know, people talk about that. There's like, could the next Cyberpunk game be in third person? It's like, no, it couldn't be.
They wouldn't, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't. And it's a it's such a effective storytelling mechanic. And again, we can't get that in movies. We can't get that in TV. You can't get that in other types of interactive media. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something. There's something about it, man. It's kind of probably why it's the one of the biggest industries, and people still play them. But there's absolutely something about 'em. What was your first game? Like, what got you like into gaming?
Spyro Year of the Dragon.
So
100%.
many
Oh,
people
no,
say
not Year of the
Spyro.
Dragon. The original Spyro. So the original Spyro, then Ripto's Rage, then Year of the Dragon was
Amazing,
100% what threw me into the deep end.
amazing. What console was it?
PlayStation 1, which I still
Nice.
have
Hell yeah.
because it's
Hell
like
yeah.
nostalgia at this point. And then it went to basically any other PlayStation platform. Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank was my big. I always joke with people because nobody ever seems to catch it, but my cover photo on Twitter is a reference to Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal because it's like if you are a Clunk supporter, do not interact. And like because I was
Amazing.
playing it at the time, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna make this, and nobody ever catches it because like, yeah, guys, I get it, it's an old game and stuff, but yeah, those were the games that kind of 100% jumped me into it, and I was just like, oh, this is what gaming is like.
I love that so much. And was Mass Effect like your first cosplay? I remember that was one of your OG ones, but what got you into the
Um,
cosplaying them?
so my very first cosplay was actually Serana from the Dawn Guard DLC from Skyrim.
Nice. That is
Um,
so specific. I love that.
I listen, I was a Skyrim girl. I mean, me and my sister still is. Like we joke with her. I actually officiated my sister's wedding, and I made a joke in the speech that her husband had to be dragged away from his a millionth match of League of Legends, and Kristen had to be dragged away from her 20th replaying of Skyrim.
Mood.
Like, so that was kind of it. Yeah, because Skyrim and like Fallout Bethesda stuff was probably my first like adult games, like jumping
Yeah.
into it. But I always liked Serana. I always liked her, and then it kind of spiraled from there. I actually didn't play Mass Effect until 2020.
Really?
Um, for as big of a fan of it as I am, Mass Effect and Dragon Age I did not play till then because I was terrified of my decisions mattering. And now I love games where my decisions only matter.
I love that. Yeah, I actually have never played it, but I always do associate you with it. But it makes sense because I feel like that's around the time I, ran into you, and so it
Yeah.
makes it would absolutely make sense that that's just not a time.
I listen. I love Mass Effect. I am very proud about that. Like me and my friend have this joke that we have to have our yearly Mass Effect playthrough.
Oh, A
So
plus, absolutely.
yeah, it's what you have to do. You get to experience the story. And then Dragon Age happened right after that, and Dragon Age is a ton of fun. I force everybody says I'm playing Baldur's Gate. I'm like, okay, now that you're done, have you heard of Dragon Age? Or I'll be like, what about Fallout New Vegas? Do you like your decisions mattering? Do you like gray morality? Fallout New Vegas.
So, see, what I'm hearing is I need to play New Vegas because I keep asking people. I've never played Fallout, and I always feel like I would like it because, again, I just never had a PC really, and it was like I had an
Mhm.
Xbox briefly, but it was one of those things that just was so late to the game on it. I felt like it was too late, and now that I'm fucking over that because whatever, that's fake. And every time people are like, "Oh, play four, oh, play New Vegas," and there's always a dissenting opinion every time I ask the next person. But you've almost sold me on New Vegas. I'm just like, I know I just need to start one, but I just like I need my brain to latch onto one. Otherwise, I'm not gonna keep playing. I'm gonna go back play current game. Go play Alan Wake. Go play
New
Cyberpunk.
Vegas is the best. I always I always tell people to start with for 3 because 3 is not the greatest, but it also like gets you used to the controls and it's shorter. New Vegas is probably one of the best examples of gray morality and decision making in RPGs. I mean, it's been hailed as one of the best RPGs ever made, and it really is. And I also like it because you get to be gay in the desert with your cowboy friends.
I love that.
There's a
Sold.
there's a
No
big
one has told me that, and that alone sold.
Oh
Sold.
yeah, yeah. I mean, this was 2010, and they had a couple, like 2 of your companions are gay, and also my favorite part is there's a joke in the community that you could take a perk. So before you've always had a perk called like Black Widow or Lady Killer, and it's the opposite gender. You would do 10% damage to, but in New Vegas they added it, so they added confirmed bachelor and Chiselle La Femme, I can't say it. And so basically you could take both, and as a result, if you're bisexual, you could do 10% damage against everyone.
Amazing. A
And
plus.
so
The true
I'm
gay agenda,
the
honestly.
true gay agenda. So I'm always like, yeah, I'm like, you have to be gay in the desert with your friends. That's what it's all about. I've been playing it on Twitch right now uh, because I'm like getting used to streaming and stuff. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, well, let me play a game I know how to play.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
it's very good. It's very much like you kind of have to sit there and think, is this the right decision? Am I doing this right? And then the DLC are some of the finest storytelling I've seen in a game. Like, oh, it's so good. The DLC there's 4 of them, and they go through basically an entirely different storyline, which fully completes the story to the main game. And
Amazing.
it's fantastic. But I always try to sell people on New Vegas because I'm like, it's my favorite. I love it.
No, I love that because people are just like, no, you got to just start with one of them. And it says, but it's never, no one says start with 2. Like, it's always either 4 or New Vegas.
Yeah. Well, the problem with 1 and 2 is they're isometric top down,
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah.
they're a little bit more
I
difficult
didn't know
to
the first
play.
one was top down. I knew the second one. That's wild. Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't
they
know how I
are
didn't know
because
that.
they were made at the end of the 90s, and
Yeah,
then
that would
they
make sense. Yeah.
sold it off to Bethesda. Bethesda made 3, which is kind of the format it's in now. And then actually people from Black Isle that made Fallout moved to Obsidian and then wrote Fallout New Vegas. So that's why Fallout New Vegas is so good, is because it takes the storytelling from 1 and 2, which are hailed for really good storytelling, just the gameplay
Yeah.
is a little and so they wrote New Vegas because Bethesda said you guys can make a spin-off for 1 game and then give it back, and then they
Oh,
made
that's
4.
nice.
And I have many opinions about 3 and 4, but they're fine. They're not my favorite stories, but I 4 does have really nice combat, I will say.
That's nice. I feel the same about when I talk about Far Cry with people. Like, you never hear people go, oh, like, go back, play Far Cry. Like, I say never, and someone's going to be
Mhm.
like, I love Far Cry 2. It's my favorite. But, like, it's just people are always like 3, 4, 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
3 did rule. 3 and 4 I thought were pretty fun.
I
I
see.
haven't played anything since then.
I love 5. 6 I haven't finished because it just makes me more motion sick. I don't know what they did to the
Mhm.
thing, but I'm also just getting older and more migraine. Like, I'm just more sensitive. Like, sometimes
Yeah.
Borderlands 3 makes me nauseous, and I'm like, where is this coming from? But TPS sometimes I'm just like, oh, I'm out the window with the graph thing. But
Oh, yeah, the grab stuff, yeah.
yeah. But Fallout, Far Cry for me was, I think, one of those examples where I like point to Resident Evil did this differently, but I always say like franchises when they go on for a while will eventually like have to like reinvent itself a little bit and like figure out what they were doing intentionally or not. And I feel like Far Cry was one of those where they realized too many games deep. They're like, hey, is this connected? Like, let's figure
Who
this out.
cares?
Like, it's just very like now we have like a universe, but it's this and contradictory, and it's very basic gameplay. Like, it's nothing I feel like to write home about, but it's just something really fun about it to me, and I don't know
Mhm.
why.
I do agree. I do like Far Cry. I haven't played in years, but
Yeah.
I did enjoy it when I did play it.
Yeah, 5 I think got me just for probably the daddy issues a little bit and just growing up in the South and like all that stuff. There's just enough things that hit Sarah. I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That tracks for me. Like, whatever, where I just connect to it in a way. But I mean, speaking of Troy Baker, I mean, like 4, like he just fucking
Yeah.
everyone, and it's just everyone they cast is usually fantastic. But again, that starts with
Mhm.
3 when they really up their antagonists and they're like, we are telling these stories now. It does matter. It does matter. Portal wouldn't be the same without GLaDOS. It just wouldn't.
Oh, that's so true. Oh, Portal.
She's perfect. Portal's perfect. Portal 2, perfect game. Like, no one can touch it. It's fantastic, and I love it with my whole heart. So
It's
good.
good as hell.
What are you taking to PAX East? Do you know yet?
So I'm taking Orin, and I'm making my partner Gortash, so that's gonna be really
Nice.
fun.
Amazing.
I'm doing some Critical Role stuff one day, because my friend asked if we want to do some Vox Machina stuff, so I'm doing some Critical Role stuff. Very
Hell yeah.
excited about. Other than that, I don't know. I normally decide probably way too late because I have to make like, well, at least I'll have Orin done for KatsuCon, but I'll have to make like 3 costumes.
Yeah.
2 for my boyfriend and 1 for me. So, that'll be. I don't know if I'll have anything else I'm going to make new for that, but I'll
Time
see. I might
crunch is
bring a
real.
I'll probably bring a Borderlands one just because it's PAX.
Yeah.
And I haven't worn Maya to a convention in a while, so I'll probably just wear Maya.
Oh, that'd be
Maybe
fun.
bring back Lilith again
That'd be
with her
fun.
wig. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still figuring out our lineup. I'm going to be finishing Athena for it though, and that's been like one of those like 3
Oh
years
yeah,
in the
that's dope as
making.
well.
Yeah, it's armor.
Oh, that's fair. Oh no, I totally get you.
Yeah, especially just very futuristic armor. Like all armor is hard, but I feel like it's the stylized. Like I saw you deal with a lot in Hades kind of thing where you'd
Mhm.
be posting your progress up, but when things are remotely weird shaped, I'm like, okay, this is
Yeah.
yeah,
My
yeah,
biggest secret to that is I like sculpt the shape I want out of like oven clay, dry clay, or foam clay, and then I masking tape it and I draw all my patterns from that and I scan them into my computer and make them bigger. That's what I
nice.
started doing for like my weird patterns, and it's worked out a lot better than I thought it would.
Honestly, yeah. No, it's always like weird when I find the little ways to make something happen that I end up like keeping. And I feel like it would be so convoluted at the time where I should just learn to do XYZ. And I'm like, nope, this weird, very specific way I've learned to, tailor this or do this is the way it goes. But I always laugh because it's, things that I spend forever on, or Telepath spends forever because she's just fucking amazing at what she does. But like there was one part of Jack, one of the only parts of Jack that hasn't been remade. And I'm still like, I want to redo his vest. I want to redo the pants. There's a lot of stuff about him that I'm like, okay, this isn't like finished yet. I would love it to be because I wear him too much. I would love it to be done because I don't think I'm taking him to PAX. But there's this one little clip he has on his shirt that connects with the cloaking device and this cord. And I've nitpicked everything else around it. And this, like, right before I wore him the first time to a con, I was like, I don't have that like done though. We don't really have anything. And I was so like, no, I need this though. It's on his costume. And I don't even know what to call it. It's like a little claspy thing. I don't know. And Telpeth looked at me and goes crazy because I had this like thinner than paper foam sheets that like I accidentally ordered from Amazon one day. And I just folded a bunch of them and covered it in masking tape and then just like painted it and then made a masking tape little bridge thing and like stuck it on and was like, what are you doing? I'm like, no, it's gonna work. It has not fallen apart once. It is the only part of the costume that's not given it any trouble. It is never like faded. It's not
You
shipped.
fixed it.
I did. I'm like,
You're
this is genius. This is genius. This would have been this whole like we're molding this out of foam and we're doing this, or then here's this plastic and here's the anchor. No, like absolutely, it was just me panic. Like here's a bunch of masking tape together in this thing. I'm like, it is the one part of the costume that's held up. It's insane.
That's how it be.
How it be? How it be? Indeed. Remy, come here. Sorry, my dog is being incredibly fucking needy over here. He's very smelly old man, very good, but very trying very hard to get my attention, and he's not gonna like it because we got to stream too, and it's gonna be a nightmare.
Aw.
Before I let you go D&D, I always try to throw at people. We created a game that is basically, think of it as a time capsule. It doesn't have to be your favorites, but consider it like the best. Like if you had to choose 5 games of the best games ever made to put in a capsule for people that have never played a video game. And you're like, you need to play these. What would you put in there?
Um, so probably number one is I probably would put Baldur's Gate because I've gotten a lot of people who don't play video games to play Baldur's Gate and now are really into video games. So
I
I'll
have
put
seen that a lot. Like, Telha's roommate was very much, have I been sleeping on like RPGs? Like, what is this? Like, and suddenly playing it on a Mac. Like, it's
Yeah.
very, yeah. Yeah.
Fallout New Vegas. I'll always recommend that one. Spyro Year of the Dragon because we need a
We got to bring it
classic.
home with that. Absolutely.
Let's see. I'll throw in a FromSoft just because I'm crazy. I put in Bloodborne. And then I would probably end it with I wish there was if there were 6, it would be Mass Effect 2 and Borderlands 2, but I'm going to go with Borderlands 2 because you need to play the Mass Effect series as a trilogy.
I love that. See, the 5th one is always what gets people. It's easier to do 4 or 6 or like stop at 3. Like the 5th one is like, I can't choose. But I'm surprised you didn't put Hades on there, honestly.
I do really love Hades, but I don't know. I like to introduce people to more story-based games just to kind of open up their mind because I feel like everybody knows games as and like there's a lot of story in Hades and stuff too, but I like to I feel like with Hades, if you've never played a video game before and you realize it's the same thing over and over, you might be a little like, I
Yeah.
don't know if I like this. So I kind of wanted to throw some things that were like
No,
made
I
you
love
think,
it.
but also
They're entirely
had
different and
some
I
good
love it.
gameplay.
I asked Killer 6 and he was like, Hades 10 out of 10, perfect game, 100%, put it in there. And then everything else was like Tiny Tina's Attack on Dragon's Keep kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't even know if I put Borderlands in mine, but mine changes all the time. So if anything you're looking forward to this year or want to plug, or promo, please feel free, or if you're like want to talk about cons or anything.
The Phaseknight cosplay. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Phaseknight, and Twitter at Phaseknight underscore, and then Twitch at Phaseknight underscore because everything else was taken.
That's a mood.
I have one of those links in bio, so if you're looking for that, you can find that there. And then yeah, I'll be at a bunch of cons this year. Katsu, PAX East, Gen Con, Dragon Cons are some of my real big ones.
Oh, I'm
So
so jealous about Dragon Con. I miss Dragon
I
Con
am
so
so
much.
excited. I've
Is it
never
your
been,
first show?
so
Oh my god,
yeah,
it's massive. Please tell me how it is. I miss it.
I'm
Since I
so
grew up
excited.
Atlanta, I just 100%. I'm sure it's so different now, but it's still like the same like Hunger Games for
Mhm.
the hotels like nightmare. And
Oh
like I
yeah,
never got into a panel, but it was always just the environment of it that I was obsessed with. It's the same weekend as PAX West every year, and I'm so mad
yeah,
about
I
it.
know. That's
I'm
fair.
so mad about it because I love
That's
PAX
always
West. It's
the
like my
same. I
favorite.
don't know. Yeah.
I've never actually been to I've never been to Katsucon, but I've never been to a Colossal Con, and I always
Oh,
try
I
to
will
like
be at
think about over
Colossal
there.
too. Colossal is pretty fun too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
vacation econ, that's really nice.
I
But
wish it
yeah, I'll
was
be
out
there too.
here because it'd be easier. Because otherwise, we're like, okay, hotel, airfare, like trying to figure out
Yeah,
like
no,
all
I
that.
totally understand
But
that. It's
it'd be
kind of
fun. I
a
really want to
nightmare.
do a really douchey like Hugh Hefner Jack one day there. But
Yeah. Oh, that'd be
I,
so good.
it'd be so good. But a poolside Ash Overwatch is
Yeah.
one that I'm always like,
Yeah.
okay, well, if we go Colossal, I'll like
No, that'd be so much fun.
it'd be so fun. It'd be so good.